fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you! I'll tell you! And there's like...
About Hideo Kojima, the creator of Metal Gear Solid, and tonight's industry icon.
We are most powerful when we come together, united by our common love for the art form.
Innovation and accessibility. So recognizing software and or hardware that is pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by an even wider audience. The nominees are Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Grounded, Hyperdot, The Last of Us Part 2, and Watch Dogs Legion. So just to preface, I don't have like any disabilities or accessibility issues like physically at all. But for me, the first thing I look at when I go into a game, and you know this, is I look at the accessibility options for me for colorblind, because I'm colorblind, and most games color schemes, run on the red-green spectrum, of which all of the colors look the same to me, so it doesn't work.
Yep.
So the first thing I do when I go into a game is I look at the accessibility options, because the colorblind stuff is usually under there. And this is going to roll right into who I think is going to win this category and who I think should win this category. Last of Us Part 2 has hundreds of accessibility options that have never been in a video game before, ever.
Yeah.
They had an entire team dedicated to making sure that as many people as possible, regardless of ability, could play this game.
Yep.
And I think there's something to be said there for it. So when you go into the accessibility options for that game, I mean, it blew my mind. I was like, damn, this is shit that I wouldn't have even thought of. Like, it's insane. And, the fact that they did that and dedicated so much intentional effort into adding those options for people to be able to experience their game, I think that's incredible. And I know Watch Dogs Legion and AC Valhalla also had a shit ton of accessibility options. And I know they get praised on that, but I think Last of Us Part 2 had like literally hundreds and has done stuff with accessibility that games have never done before.
Yeah.
So
I can't speak. Listen, I don't have any disabilities or anything like that would, impair me from playing a game. But, like you, I did go into the settings. It actually, when you start Last of Us 2, it actually kind of prefaces with some accessibility options right off the bat. Right. So I just know, like, when you were talking and prefacing this whole thing, I knew you were going to say Last of Us 2 because it's gotten, sucked off from media outlets for this. I've seen it myself, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot. I can't speak to literally any of the other games in this category for it, nor should I. But I just know, yeah, you're right. Last of Us 2 killed it.
Games for impact. For a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. The nominees are If Found, Kentucky Route Zero TV Edition, Spiritfarer, Tell Me Why, and Through the Darkest of Times. So to preface, I haven't played any of these games except for about 30 seconds of Kentucky Route Zero.
Me too.
Okay. Tell Me Why. Because that's Don't Nod. I thought I was going to hear more about this game after it came out, but I couldn't even tell you what people are saying about it because I haven't heard anything, which to me is crazy because Don't Nod has been really successful with their games. What was their last big one? Not the sequel, but there's Jesus.
Did they do Life is Strange?
That's it. Yeah, Life is Strange. Life is Strange 2 got reviewed really well. I haven't heard anything about Tell Me Why.
Me either.
Which is surprising, which makes me think that maybe it didn't do as well.
Yeah.
But I think, again, I don't know much about any of these games, but since I played a little bit of it and since I know it's got sucked off and I know what it's about and I think it's really, really cool and important, my personal choice would be Kentucky Route Zero, and I also think Kentucky Route Zero is going to win. I think Spiritfarer, from what I've seen, has a good chance as well, even though I don't know that much about it. But I would think that Kentucky Route Zero would win.
Yeah, I mean... Excuse me. Sorry about that. I think that Kentucky Route Zero is like the most well-known game in this list here. And I also, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even know if this game came out this year, and that's why they're specifying the TV edition of the game.
TV edition, yeah. I think it came out a year or two ago. Yeah.
So that's interesting to me because it's like at that point, like I don't even know if it should be here then. But
yeah. I just think it might be the most likely to win.
Yeah, no, I agree. So my thing with this is, Josh, I don't really know any of these games. I don't know really anything about them. However, it's cool that they do this category, first of all.
Oh yeah.
And I think the coolest thing about it is when I do see the winner, I'm probably going to go and I'm going to download the game that wins and I'm going to play it.
Yeah. I think about why this is such an important category too. I think it was last year's winner. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Nah, I think it was last year. But that Dragon Cancer.
That was a few years ago.
Maybe it was a few years ago. No, I don't. But I think back to the that dev's speech when he won. And that game was made as a homage, basically, and paid tribute to his son who died. His very young son who died from cancer.
Yeah.
And I played it a little bit. That is a special game. And if it were not for the Game Awards, it would not have gotten as much recognition as it should have.
Yeah.
And that dude wouldn't have been able to tell his story. And even watching his speech now, you can't watch that and not get choked up a little bit. I mean, it's an important category for that alone.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah.
And I think it helps elevate the status of video games as art. These games usually, they have huge meaning behind them for the most part. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're being nominated for this category, like your game means something. And most likely it's a game that you could recommend to someone that doesn't really play games and say, hey, this is like a really cool experience. And, you know, I really felt something when I played this. I've had a couple games like that I've played, mm-hmm. and I've had like a really strong, like emotional tie to. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's funny because my final project in college was like, I was a graphic design student, and my project was I was creating a video game and I was marketing it and making the marketing materials and creating the story and whatnot. And the reason I was allowed to pursue it as a graphic design major was because I put a thesis together, and in it, I referenced games like that Dragon Cancer. And I said, you know, mm-hmm. this is what games are now. They're not just, you know, violent and crazy and, you know what I mean? And that's what won my teacher over. She was like, wait, what? And like, we actually talked about it after class. And she was like, I'm gonna have to look into this. Is this something I can get on my computer? And I was like, yeah, it's probably on Mac or something. Like, you could probably play it. So it's really important. And it breaks games into the, you know, mainstream a little bit. They may not be the huge sellers of the video game industry, but they're definitely just as meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, and it's akin to, you know, and why I hate the Oscars so much is the Oscars are like a fucking pissing contest and a popularity contest. And you think about movies as a genre, like as a medium, you know, you have your huge blockbuster movies, but then you have so many smaller indie movies that mean so much to the people that make them and often have way more heart and literal like blood, sweat, and tears put into it. And you see the same thing in the video game space. You know, video games aren't all sports games or fighting games or shooting games. You know, like there's a lot of really important stories that are being told and innovations being made with smaller indie games, which I know is one of the reasons why we do Indie Intel every week for our normal pod. And, you know, people I think inside the video game like sphere or that play games get that, but that there's still this like, you know, stigma or perception from like the wider audience that's like video games are just like shoot 'em up, blood, gore, whatever, you know.
Yeah. So this is a really important category, regardless of who you are, what you think. You know, I'm looking forward to this one, and I'm going to play whatever one wins. As a matter of fact, I might even play them all.
Yeah.
So that's that.